Welcome to Overwatch, and welcome to another episode of Coffee Time. Again, the more rambly format, I suppose, of your Overwatch news roundup. Although today we're going to be doing something a little bit different, which is going to be my rant on Hanzo, and like, why don't I like Hanzo? A couple of people sort of referenced it in the last video, of like, you seem to be harping on this a lot lately, and I kind of am, because it's interesting. Whenever I bring up Hanzo, people always first bring up the scatter arrow and go, oh, scatter arrow, right? Lol. And it's like, no, I don't mind the scatter arrow. Scatter arrow doesn't really annoy me too much. It's an ability, it one-shots you occasionally if it's shot correctly. It takes a little bit of finesse to use, but not always, but it's no different to me than getting hit by, I don't know, a helix rocket out of nowhere, or damage amp fire missile. Like, it's on a relatively long cooldown, it's a little bit finicky to use, fair enough, whatever. What annoys me about Hanzo is its reliability, I suppose. It's where does he fit? Will he ever be better than any of the other DPS options? Will he ever be better than McCree, for example? Because the issue with Hanzo is this: the moment you release the arrow, it's now up to chance. It's now, depending on whether the enemy dodges left or dodges right and goes into that arrow, the target might be hit, the target might be missed. And sure, he can kill extremely quickly, like as part of the, I guess the balancing of his character, because he can't hit reliably. When he hits, it hits like a truck, right? It does 120 damage base, and then it will crit for 240. Like, you can annihilate people with Hanzo. But the issue underlying Hanzo is that reliability factor. You'll never have someone pick Hanzo, even if they're like God's gift to shooting arrows. If they're playing at the appropriate level, you'll never feel comfortable. You'll never feel safe and secure in the idea that, hey, we got a Hanzo, he can deal with this threat that we have consistently and easily and simply. No, it's, okay, sometimes he's going to be completely useless and sometimes he's going to kill absolutely everyone. It's always a little bit variable, and I'm sure someone's going to go, but Raksu, or but Seagull, or but whatever. If these guys are playing at like the very, very highest level, and if they were actually playing games based around their skill level, they'll be playing in pro level matches and getting absolutely shit on. Hanzo has conditionally come out occasionally in pro matches, but usually more for his utility, and this is why I want to sort of touch on, hey, Hanzo can be pretty cool if you change how he works. Because the underlying issue is this: like I said before, Hanzo is never going to be better or more reliable than McCree, than Soldier 76, than anything like that. Maybe the developers are fine with that. Maybe they're fine with the idea of having this high variance hero that's always a little bit chaotic, but if he works amazingly. It's the issue that I have there is that whenever he's picked, it's just, you don't feel safe. And so what I would like to see is a shift away from Hanzo from being this pure DPS role, this pure DPS sniper, to being more of a utility toolbox, where you can even try and somehow give him more abilities. Maybe you hold shift and you get a radial menu instead of getting just, you know, scatter arrow. Like, you can get a menu of 4 arrows, maybe, and maybe they can all do different cool things. Maybe you can have an explosive, excuse me, maybe you can have an explosive arrow, maybe you can have a penetrating arrow that goes through barriers, maybe you can have all these cool little toys like Sonic Arrow, like the Scatter Arrow, that try and force you to be a little bit cleverer. Like, a guy with a bow surrounded by people with guns and lasers and stuff like that has to be a little bit more cunning, has to be a little bit cleverer. So the fact that he's just shooting people in the head with these sci-fi bows, sci-fi arrows, it just feels weird to me. I do also want to touch on like the mentality of the Hanzo main, because to me the Hanzo main is a person who has decided to give themselves a challenge, right? They've decided to go, okay, I'm going to see how far I can get on this really challenging character. I'm going to try and master Hanzo, and maybe if I get good enough, I can land 60% of my arrows. Maybe if I'm tip-top master super best Hanzo in the world, maybe I can do that, and if I can do that, I can absolutely devastate games. Again, the issue I have there is that if you spend all that time mastering, even, like, if you want to be a cool weeaboo, you can go and master Genji, you can go and master something else, something that is more reliable, something that is more effective. Mastering Hanzo has so little payoff, and that is, again, an issue. It's not even like mastering Widowmaker, where mastering Widowmaker can really change how people have to play a game if they're going to play against you. Mastering Hanzo is just a matter of, okay, well, they just sit behind barriers a lot more and maybe bring out a diva. And so what frustrates me is this more than anything, is that Hanzo is a cool concept. People want to play Hanzo. Hanzo is a cool dude. He's the Dishonored former, like, Yakuza, well, fantasy Yakuza boss. Sort of cool dude using antique weapons and traditional styles. He has these very strong moral feelings and very strong sort of ideas. And he's an interesting hero and he's got an interesting basis for stuff. But it's just like, why does he have to exist in such a frustrating place? And so if any hero is going to get reworked next, I do hope it is Hanzo. I do hope they take a look at Hanzo and make him just less obnoxious. Just less. Please. Maybe. Please. Please. The other thing I did want to sort of touch on, I guess, as well, is the new comic that they released. I can't even remember its name, because I'm terrible at remembering names. Is it The Search or something like that? It's Searching. There we go. So, it was an interesting little comic. It didn't sort of substantially change too much, I think. It was more like a character piece around Zarya, sort of showing that, you know, she doesn't like Omnix, and why she doesn't like Omnix a little bit blunt, a little bit on the nose. We might have learned Sombra's real name. We've learned a name, at the very least. So, Olivia Colomar, I think it is, might be the name that we've learned. Okay, congratulations. It doesn't really give us anything other than maybe a name. I mean, Sombra is still what she's going to be called by everyone and everything, and people can change the name anyway, so it's not a huge sort of link, I guess, into anything. Maybe, you know, the implied threat I understand of, like, if I know your name, then I can know where your family is, where your roots are. Maybe people who want to fight you can use this somehow. Like, it's still a threat to Sombra, so whatever. It's, you know, it's not a huge ground-shaking revelation. The one thing I really will comment on is the art. I think the art in this comic was a lot better than some of the other ones we've had before. In general, they seem to be sort of reaching out to really decent artists at the moment. I do like the colours. Some of the faces are a little bit, you know, not 100% perfect, but it's a comic, so you're not expecting 100% perfection out of every single panel, and it's free as well, so I'm not expecting, like, you know, super high-grade work out of it. I'm expecting it to look like the characters, and I'm expecting them to have readable expressions, and I'm expecting them to do things that the characters do, and that's kind of what they do, which is nice. I think the only other thing I can really comment on is the ultimate change on the PTR, which is an interesting little thing. I really hope they be careful with that one, because it could be very frustrating, for example, to lose Dragon Blades and stuff like that if you just, you know, stand too close to McCree and he gets a flashbang off at the right time. If you aren't aware at all of the way it works on PTR at the moment, basically when you press Q, the ultimate bar just depletes instantly. So a lot of heroes have like a wind-up animation for starting their ultimate off, and if you get crowd control during that wind-up, then you lose the ultimate. And as it works at the moment on live, you can still basically recast the ultimate. You don't lose any charge on that. Or you might lose very minimal charge. The way it works on PTR is, of course, you lose it all. So that means stuff like if you press Q for sound barrier and Lucio dies before touching the floor, you lose the sound barrier. It means that you would lose Dragon Blades. It means that you have to be way more careful with drawing these ultimates. What it does mean is that it is very punishing to those heroes that do have these wind-ups, while heroes that don't necessarily have wind-ups on their ultimate, like Valkyrie, for example, like Self-Destruct, like a lot of ultimates in the game, I suppose, Pulse Bomb as well, don't have these wind-up animations. So then you've got to consider, like, as it is now, it's not really a huge balance issue of, oh, well, this hero has a wind-up on their ultimate, this hero doesn't. In future, it might be, you know, it could be a cool way of balancing some really powerful ultimates. Hey, if you get crowd control while firing this thing, you're gonna lose it. So that could be a really cool way of balancing it and giving maybe McCree a little bit more power, or crowd control in general, a little bit more power in Overwatch. But as it is now, I feel like it's gonna be sort of sloppily implemented, where some heroes have wind-up, some heroes don't, and the heroes that do have wind-up aren't necessarily the ones that need balancing in certain ways, in these ways, around their ultimate, where other heroes who don't have wind-up might need tweaking on their ulties. So how they figure that out, how they fix that, maybe they just make the Q button deplete a little bit later or something like that, I don't know, but if they can figure it out, sure, I would actually prefer that system where you just, once the ultimate is out, then you've lost all your ultimate charge. There was one instance in a pro level game, I believe, where a Pharah barraged, managed to demech a D.Va and then get stunned out or killed out of the barrage, but still had about 70% charge left. Like, it was a very rare occasion, but it's just like the instant first burst of the barrage did enough follow-up damage, so there's like rocket barrage, and then they died. And that follow-up damage from the barrage was enough to demech a diva, which is a big deal. And then they sort of got stunned or something, and then they came back into the fight with like 70% ultimate charge, so they could just barrage again in like 2 rockets time. It was pretty crazy. So that was kind of an interesting interaction where the current system sort of falls apart. So the new system, sure, it can work, but again, just be careful around that crowd control. Could be an interesting balancing tool, but at the moment it's a bit slipshod. Otherwise, well, I do know that this is a little bit all over in terms of, well, where the coffee break's going, but it's meant to be a bit meandering, a bit podcasty, and I'll see you guys next time for it. Let me know your opinions on Hanzo. If you have a hero that you really, really hate and hope that Blizzard change, I'm sure that will prompt some interesting discussion. I'm sure some people will say Widowmaker. I know there's actually a lot of people out there that hate playing with a Widowmaker on the map. I am not one of them. Otherwise, I will see you guys next time. Thank you for watching all the way to the end. I have been Josh, as one voice amongst many, and I'm sure you guys will do me the favour of hitting that like button. Toodles.